Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. This is episode 255. I am your host, Brad Rowland, on a Sunday evening, and I am not joined by Scott Coleman. In fact, I've been gone. Now Scott's gone. But look, no one cares where Scott is. We have an old friend on the podcast today. His name, if you were familiar with the podcast for a long time, you already know his name, but his name is Eric Cole. Eric, hello. How are you?
How are you, Bradford? I mean, it's been 3 or 4 years since I was on the podcast last time. And
no, you were on the podcast.
I've kind of forgotten your face.
That's not true. This is not true.
Look, I just go back through the tape and just kind of let's figure this out. Because I think we were talking about Ozzie Albies being traded the last time I was on. So it's been a while.
And this is what you're gonna get with Eric on the podcast, everybody. Just a little intro. Eric was on the show once earlier this year, I think. Maybe it was the end of last year.
Right. It was before the season.
Before the season. There you go. Off season. But Eric and I and Scott, actually, the three of us did a lot of podcasts together at a different place that kind of became this podcast in a roundabout way. Eric is still covering the Braves. I'll let you plug all the things later on, but you're still covering the Braves regularly. You're wearing Braves gear if you're not watching on YouTube. By the way, a plea. Early in the podcast, we rarely do this. If you're an audio listener, which I always say I'm an audio podcast listener. I don't know about you, Eric. I'm an audio podcast listener. But if you just take a second and subscribe on YouTube, it'd be awesome to help us grow the show. So even if you're not going to watch on YouTube, that's cool. Please subscribe there as well. Audio platforms, subscribe, tell your friends. But Eric, let's just start in a weird place. We're recording on a Sunday evening. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
But before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty, Brad, we were talking before the show, and this was actually very magnanimous of you. Talking about just kind of like ideas for like spreading love for the show and like getting it out there. If this podcast right here gets 250 likes, Brad has agreed on the show to sing the entirety of the Michigan fight song. And I'm telling you, you have not lived until you've heard Brad Rowland sing at full volume. So I just personally think that'd be great for audio listeners in the car. I mean, like, hey, a little bit of a music break in the middle of the show too. It was very big of you. So, something to think about.
This is something that Eric would do on a podcast, make promises for me. It's the only one of us promised to have a tattoo, and it wasn't me. So
that's going to happen, but I have to stop having panic attacks every time I walk in.
I understand. It would be a lot. So, we've been talking about the Braves for a long time, you and I, and we'll get into the weekend of activity. The Braves avoided a sweep today with a win on Sunday after some ugliness in the middle of the week. I guess probably early in the weekend. But I want to go big picture to begin the podcast, because you and I were actually doing podcasts the last time the Braves were bad. Let's just say that when they were in the middle of a rebuild, it was different than now, because this season, as we've covered many times, they were supposed to be good and they're not. Whereas back then, I'm talking about the 2016, 2017 range, they weren't supposed to be good then. They were already in the middle of a full rebuild when you and I were talking about things. But you, especially as a prospect watcher, minor league observer, especially in those days, really in the nitty gritty in those days, I have to ask you, like, where's your mind been around the last couple of months? Once it became clear that the season was pretty much over, and it's like, man, this is we're in weird territory. How have you been processing everything as a watcher of the Braves?
It feels very similar to what was happening last season with injuries. It just felt like every time that they would get a little bit of traction, they'd get a guy back, or they'd, put together a couple wins, they'd lose another guy, and then they would lose all momentum. And then basically anything that could go wrong did go wrong in that first couple months of the season. I mean, Raziel Iglesias forgot how to play baseball, and then like half the lineup was gone. Nick Allen was like the Braves' third best hitter for like 2 weeks, which was a pretty dark period of time for Braves history. The entirety of the opening day rotation is now gone they're on the IL. When Chris Sale comes back, he will be the only one that's going to be back. So it felt very much like they were playing from behind, and that it was going to be very difficult to make the moves that they wanted to make, especially since it just became apparent to me from the moves they did make in the offseason. I mean, look, Jerson Profar getting suspended for 80 games was obviously bad, right? So like that hurt. And a lot of those one-run losses, of which there were a lot of them early in the season, that might have been fixed if you have a real leadoff hitter. But it became apparent to me that they were really trying to stay under the luxury tax for this year so they could reset those penalties. And to me, that just meant like, well, what do we think is going to happen at the trade deadline? That let's say they're like within 5 games of a playoff spot. I just didn't see a world where they were going to go out there and get a big contract to take on, so they could have an impact player. So it felt like for a long time that this was the group, and they were either going to figure it out, and they weren't, and they didn't. They've looked better recently, for sure. They have been more fun to watch. Michael Harris is like not the worst player in baseball anymore, and he's been, arguably the best one. We have Ronald back after his second injury, which was kind of a pretty scary thing. Whenever you hear Achilles, you just never, that's just never good news. But it worked out pretty well. Profar's been amazing this month. He's been on fire. So they've been more fun to watch. But again, I'm with you. We've been through this before. I have some perspective on this. That we've seen the bad. It comes with the good. The way this came is not necessarily typical. And this does feel like the type of team that could bounce back after just one off season, just make a couple key signings, fill some rush holes, actually have a bullpen that can, perform, and then let it ride. So it's not one of those things where I'm like despairing, but I understand when I talk to a lot of people, they'll ask me, whether it's, friends, family, or just people who happen to recognize me, that they'll ask me about the season. And I tell them like, look, it's a bad season, but it's not like this. It's like this in any other sport. You lose a key guy in football, you lose your best player in basketball, and all of a sudden you're a below 500 team. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the team that you love is terrible forever. There are teams out there right now that are going to be terrible forever until their owners die or sell the team. That is just the truth. The Rockies will never be good. It will never happen. The Pirates will struggle mightily to be. I'm not going to say never with them because they're the amount of talent they have coming up, but I mean, I'm a big Connor Griffin fan, and they have Skeens and they have Chandler. But at the same time, if you don't spend it all and you are literally just like a revenue source for an owner, your team's not going to be good. The Braves don't operate like that. They spend. They are pretty good at developing talent. I wouldn't say they're amazing at it. They've had some notable misses, particularly on the pitching side, and their like complete unwillingness to invest in offensive young talent until this past draft has been a bit problematic. But overall, again, I'm not despaired, but at the same time, I understand why it's been very tough because this is the second year in a row. Like the second half of last year was very tough for a lot of fans. They were really looking forward to this year, and then to start the season the way it did was pretty bad. And I totally get it.
Yeah, and actually, it would have been an interesting thought experiment to know what they would have done around the deadline had they been in contention or pseudo contention. They kind of fell far enough out where it was like, will they sell or not? It was the only question. They weren't in that middle ground where it was like, would you be willing to buy? Did Alex have the room to buy financially? And this questions we'll never actually get because you're right. You bring that up, and we talked about it a lot too. It's like something at some point seemed to have changed financially where they kind of planned for one thing, and maybe Alex was told a smaller number than he thought he was going to get. In the middle of that, anyway, we'll never know the full details because obviously it's been covered. But Alex is never going to divulge that because it's not his job. His job is to protect his bosses. He's not going to be like, by the way, they didn't give me any money. So anyway, we'll come back to. I want to ask you about some prospect stuff later in the show. We're definitely going to do that because I have to use your expertise, Eric. That's what we're going to do.
I'm a washed up prospect guy, but I appreciend
you're still watching. You're still watching. I know you. You're not. You can't stay away. But actually. This weekend, and really the whole week was kind of like interesting, and you're right. They have been much more fun to watch recently. There has been a debate raging that we don't have to talk about today about like, is it good or not that they're winning? There's the root against the team conversation that keeps happening every day of my life. I've seen on social media, whatever. They have been playing better baseball, winning more games. At one point, they won 8 of 9 or 7 of 8, whatever it was, and they basically righted the ship to some degree to be a fun baseball team. Most of that's been the offense. I mean, and that was kind of on display this week. We're not a once a week podcast like we used to be when we talked about the whole week all the time. But I find it funny to put things back in sort of throwback form. The Braves had the worst ERA in baseball this week. They had a 7.67 ERA in 6 games. They got rocked 4 times, and they went 3-3 because they scored a lot of runs. And they kind of grouped their runs properly together to stay afloat and actually win some baseball games. But it was kind of microcosm of the current roster. I mean, it's not like it makes me laugh sometimes when people are despondent about the performance of the pitching staff. Because if you look at the pitching staff and the personnel of the pitching staff, it's not exactly a surprise that they're not very good. at run prevention right now. With the players that are on the IL, we'll come back to Chris Sale later. He's coming back. But the names, the talent level that's involved, they're going to have some bad performances. There was a moment this week, Eric, in which the Braves were up to 0.5% playoff odds. And I saw an actual discussion earlier this week about whether the Braves could make the playoffs. It came back just for a brief moment. Then they lost 2 games in a row to the Mets, and that was kind of it. But did you see any of that? I mean, it's just, I'm all over the place, but it's one of those things where I keep coming back to the roster that's currently available is kind of fun when they're hitting in the way that they're capable of hitting, but also there's no world in which this team is going to be able to run prevent at a high enough level to win a lot of baseball games for a long period of time.
No, not unless you have all of your bullpen. We have seen a Braves team be good with a bad rotation. I mean, we saw some truly horrid, they would give up 8. They would give up 8 runs, and then the bullpen wouldn't give up for 7, and then the offense would roar back. Now that said, no, they're not a good team. They're not. It goes further than just this week, right? This month has basically been this month has basically been without basically your best pitchers forever, right? They're out. There's been exactly 2 teams in baseball in the month of August that have a worse strikeout rate than the Braves: the Royals and the Diamondbacks. The Rockies are striking out more batters than the Braves right now. And what happened in today's game? They won 9 innings, 7 strikeouts. That has been what their rate has been all month. If you're not missing bats like that, if you're not missing bats and you're giving up walks like you have been lately, you're going to get what you get. You're going to be in these high-scoring games that you have to outslug people. You're right. They're not going to be able to run defend it. Yes, there's been, on the left side of the infield, it's pretty defensively good. Nacho's been looking pretty good over there at third, with Riley out. And Nick Allen's obviously a good defender at short. So, maybe you have that going for you. Matt Olson's a pretty good defender at first base. But at the same time, it's not going to prevent – I mean, if they're hitting 105-mile-an-hour liners, it's just going to take Ozzy's head off, right? It's just not going to – there's nothing you can do about it. So – yeah. Again, you're right. It's a lot of hard contact, too much contact, too many base runners. And if you're going to give up 5+ runs a game, you're not going to win.
Yeah, I just looked this up. In the month of August, which we're almost done with at this point, the Braves are the only team in the bottom 13 or 14 of ERA this month that has a winning record this month because they're raking. They're mashing. And they have a 5.1 team ERA in the month of August. And they're still winning games because they keep scoring runs. Okay, Eric, I want to get to some games from the weekend. I want to get to your thoughts about the honoring of the 1995 team, which happened on Friday, some prospect stuff, and more. We'll get to all of that after a word from our partners.
The dog days of summer means the MLB is fully heating up, and so is your shot to score big. Download the Pick 6 app for the easiest way to turn your baseball takes into actual cash. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you are in the mix for big cash prizes. No gimmicks, no weird rules. And get this, all new Pick 6 customers will instantly get $50 in bonus picks on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL. New customers play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks instantly. Ride the upside where a few bucks can turn into a bag only on DraftKings Pick 6. Crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. 8/24/25 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Okay, Eric, let's go back to Friday. It's Sunday evening right now. Friday was kind of a big deal in some circles in Atlanta because they honored the 95 World Series team. The first World Series team, the only one for a very long time as when you and I covered the 2021 playoff race together. A lot of guys there, alumni weekend. Bobby Cox made an appearance. Of course, Maddox, Glavin, Smoltz. You got Justice and Chipper and Grissom was there. Javi Lopez, Fred McGriff. Everybody was there. It was great. That was cool. Number one, I want to start positive. That was a cool thing for people like us, people of a certain age that remember that team well enough.
Just call us old. That's
it's just fun. I mean, I wasn't that old, but I remember it. I know we have listeners that either weren't born or were very, very little. In fact, our colleague Scott has no recollection of 95. Really, he has no idea. He's a young man. But I thought it was cool. First and foremost, it was cool to see that. Would you agree with that? Any overall thoughts on Friday night?
I mean, look, having that 95 World Series win when I was a kid. That's a like kind of a core memory for me. You know, watching Grissom catch the final out, Justice hitting the home run, watching those guys pitch against the Cleveland, you know, a Cleveland team that seemed unstoppable at the time. So that's really cool. For me, the biggest takeaway was seeing Bobby, though. I mean, it's the second time being at Truist Park since it opened. And if we're just being honest, given the state of his health after that stroke, the odds of him making another appearance at all are not good. That most people did not think that he was going to make an appearance at this event, and it was a big deal.
I was going to say, it was actually, I mean, I don't know all the back and forth, but there was a little while where the media was kind of told that he probably wasn't coming, and then they were told he was coming the day before, or maybe the morning of. So it got close to not happening. And he was obviously the rest of those guys are around enough where it's not. It was cool that it was a one-off on the 95 team, but Bobby was the one person that was like, oh, this is a bigger thing because he's here. It felt like.
Yeah, and again, it was just like, he didn't like throw the first pitch out. He was there with his family, kind of in a controlled setting to make sure he was okay, and that was a nice feeling, especially in what was ultimately a kind of a tough day because like a legendary Brave scout, Roy Clark. If you want to know who laid the groundwork for some really good Braves teams in the 2010s and even up further, then you need to go look at some of the guys that Roy Clark was responsible for bringing into the organization because he was great. Everyone loved him in the organization except like some higher ups. Again, like once you get to a certain point, you just have philosophical differences when you have different front offices and things like that. But like in terms of like the human being, everyone loves Roy Clark. And it was a shame to hear that he passed away this week. That news came out on Friday as well. So it was kind of nice to see, be able to have something to celebrate again for Braves fans of a certain age, whatever that means. Just call us old. It was nice to remember that moment because, in a while, and they're probably not going to be doing 2021 celebrations for a little while, but maybe the 10-year anniversary, that's going to be a fun thing to look back on. Doing that podcast after that World Series win was a great moment for all of us. It was a ton of fun, and it was a wild series. And again, taking some time to let fans who were there and enjoy and were like it was a big part of their fandom to celebrate was great. Unfortunately, it just came with a game that wasn't so great.
Yeah, I mean, flags fly forever. There's a reason why that's a saying. Part of the fun of winning a championship is that you can relive it for years and years in different ways. And this is one way to do it. 30 years later, I'm sure whoever can come back in 5 more years or 10 more years or whatever, 20 more years and all those things, they'll be doing that and doing that and doing that. 2021 team will be happening as well. I have one more a question. And I didn't do a ton of digging on this. I was traveling, but people asked us. So I'll ask you at sort of a hypothetical, or maybe I'm not even sure how to frame. Anyway, this game was on Apple TV Plus, Eric. I don't know how that happened. I don't know. To be charitable, I have to think that the Braves announced that was going to be the alumni gathering or whatever before the TV schedule came out. And TV said, I'm taking this game. Because there's no way the Braves would have preferred that night to be on a network that a lot of Braves fans literally don't have access to. It was just such a weird thing.
You're 100% right. And I think that I know for certain that the Friday night baseball schedule for Apple TV was not scheduled like that. That came out late in the process, right?
It had to be.
I'm certain that Apple TV had look, we want a couple marquee games among these Friday night games that we're buying from you. What can you give us? And this was just kind of the compromise that was made, right? Now it's not something we have to worry about after this year because
it's all changing again. But yeah,
yep. All the TV deals been renegotiated again. Exactly how it's going to shake out in terms of like Sunday Night Baseball might now be on NBC, but ESPN just bought MLB Network or MLB TV, and then but Apple is not involved at all. And Netflix is going to do some of the event games maybe
the Derby. Yeah, I mean, it was more that, and the Braves did a good job, I thought, blowing it out even more than they usually do on social media.
Yeah, I agree.
But like, I did feel bad for I'm sure there are a lot of Braves fans that just didn't get to watch like any of the things, like the parade that happened, the first pitch stuff, because it was very lightly, if at all, covered on the actual broadcast. It was just a game broadcast, which is their prerogative.
This is going to sound mean. This is not new. As long as local blackout restrictions exist, there are going to be people who want to watch the big events, the big games that can't watch them. And that because there's going to be restrictions placed on it. Now, does it stink? Yes. I know that there was a lot of people that if they generally don't watch on Apple TV, and maybe you can use a free trial to kind of watch a game and then cancel it and be done with it. But I understand a game like that not getting, being put, whether it was on Peachtree TV or, just whatever, or whatever, right? Just put it on whatever channel that's normal for Braves fans.
Even the normal FanDuel would have been fine, just not Apple. That's probably the worst case scenario. Even if it had been on ESPN, you would have had a lot of people be able to watch it in a different way. Apple is the smallest audience you can possibly get for a Braves telecast, for a local audience, I should say. Yeah,
absolutely. And there were plenty of fans that were genuinely upset that the news that Bobby Cox was going to be there got announced so late, because they would have.
Yeah, they would have.
But what are you going to do? I mean, I'm certain that it was just a health thing and all that. Again, could have been handled better, especially from a media exposure point of view. Absolutely, it could have. But I also think that maybe it was a bit of a concession to Apple, because they paid for these games, and they're not going to take the worst. They're not going to take the Marlins versus the Royals every Friday night series. You have to kind of give a concession, and Braves versus Mets probably seemed like something that enticed them to get this deal.
They have to have something. People just kept asking us, and I was like, hey, it's got to be it. There's no way the Braves would pick that. I think we are in agreement there. They would not have chosen to do that if they had a choice. They didn't have a choice. On the field, it was a blowout loss. Only really one thing to ask you about from the game on Friday. Our old friend, Joey Wentz has come and gone. He's back now, but he was a prospect when you were covering prospects even more closely than now. He had been good with the Braves. He had that was his first really bad outing, actually bad outing with the Braves. He still has a ERA in the mid to high threes, FIP of 3.1, in almost 40 innings. It jumped a lot after that performance. But do you buy the Joey Wentz thing as someone who's seen the Joey Wentz experience before? Is he a real thing? Is he someone that Braves fans should think should be around beyond this season? Because he's actually helped them a little bit, but he's still kind of I won't say he's a failed prospect, but he didn't come to fruition as a prospect, and now he's an older guy and he's around, and
Yeah, Joey Wentz is a failed prospect. Brad Rowland 2025. We heard it.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Someone splice it, figure it out. The short answer is I kind of do. I kind of buy it. And it's because whenever you see something like this, what's the tangible difference? And it's not just his fastball has been performing better, right? Or he's throwing a little bit harder, because that's something that could just be he's max effort for 3 weeks and then, he can't do that anymore. But what has been true with him is that his extension is markedly better since he's been with the Braves. Not just like a 0.1 or something like that. The extension of all of his pitches is very significantly different. And when you have his kind of stuff, which is good, I wouldn't call it amazing, but when you're dropping it a foot closer to a batter, those are the kinds of margins that can actually give you something. Now, was he as good as he was for that run where he was the Braves' best pitcher for a while there? No, but I could see him being a 3.5 ERA guy if his extension's 7 foot, whatever it was. Going forward, that's a carrying tool. It just is. So if that's the case, then sure. Maybe his ceiling's a mid-rotation starter, but that'd be perfectly fine for the Braves right now. They'd love to have a guy like that. I mean, again, I kind of buy it. Now, again, it wasn't fooling the Mets at all, unfortunately. But
no,
not the ghost of Eric Fede couldn't do that either. So it was just kind of a bad night, and ultimately, it was kind of a crummy situation considering the celebration that was happening. But at the same time, I kind of buy in terms of him being pretty good. I could see it happening. Now, whether or not that's going to stick, and whether or not the extension adjustment's going to stick, whether or not he's it messes up his arm action and maybe gets sore. There's a lot of things we just don't know because it's a very recent adjustment. But so far, I mean, it passes the eye test for me.
Yeah, and it's related to something we'll talk about now. When I say something, I mean Joey Wentz is related because you need a lot of guys. And we make this point a lot, but if you're a new listener or maybe you just haven't heard us say it, you need 10, 11, 12 starting pitchers in your organization, even in a typical season.
Or more.
Or more, exactly. So that's the transition to Saturday's game, where it was Cal Quantrill, who my colleagues ably covered on the most recent episode of the podcast before this one. But he debuted on Saturday with the Braves after he was brought in for the price of nothing. And I'm on board with just taking as many shots as you want to. This is what the season should be about now. Obviously, for every Carlos Carrasco and Eric Fetty, who are both gone, you get Joey Wentz and maybe you find something, right? Cal Quantrill at one point was good. He hasn't been great recently. He doesn't miss bats. You said that earlier about the whole team. That he doesn't, even when he was good, he wasn't missing bats. Cal Quantrill, but he came in through 4 2/3, left the game with cramping in his calves, but apparently Snit said he's fine, so that's something. What do you make of that? Because look, he was the 17th player to start a game for the Braves this year, and if that doesn't seem like a crazy number to you, it is a crazy number. It is the franchise record high for a season. It's still August, so that probably will go up if you had to guess. It will probably go even higher than 17. And a part of that's that they've been bad and they've had injuries, but also it's a reminder again that you just need a million guys. In 2023, they won 104 games. They were awesome in 2023. Obviously, it was the offense was the reason for that, but they were awesome. And they had 16 guys start in 2023. So, like, you can be good and need this many pitchers as well. He was another one. So, Joey Wentz, we need more of you guys. Cal Quantrill, any interest at all? Nothing? Maybe? I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of guys like Quantrill, and this kind of goes back to even when he was quote-unquote good, right? It's that guys that don't miss bats who throw a lot of strikes and then just have to hope that their carrying skill of getting weak contact will be enough. That was what made him. That was the only difference between the Quantrill then and the Quantrill now, was just that he got a lot of weak contact. That's not happening anymore. And if you're a guy who lives in the strike zone, who doesn't miss bats, and who's in the bottom 20% in most like batted ball metrics in terms of like hard hit percentage, average exit velocity, all that stuff, that is not a recipe for success. Now, that said, I'm right there with you. Just take as many flyers as you want. If I want this roster to look like the island of misfit toys, trying to figure out who can do something for this team. Carlos Carrasco probably shouldn't have happened, but at the same time, you know, he has pitched in the big leagues before. Maybe having that kind of that veteran mentorship would be good for some of the young guys. Eric Fetty, again, wasn't good this year, but worth it. I mean, it was basically free. Now, if they're if they're getting any more cute than that, I would have some problems signing, free agents who are like have been retired for 2 years or whatever. Don't do that, But at the same time, like take these flyers. I mean, Vidal Brujan hasn't been good for anybody, and then they claim him off waivers, and he's had a couple moments here and there. He hasn't been good, but he's done stuff. They keep making moves. They keep trying things out and seeing what works and what doesn't, and that is what they should be taking. Like you said, this is what they should be doing right now. It's like, okay, let's see if are these some guys that maybe can help us next year, or is this like, are we kind of looking at this the right way? These are the kinds of guys that we need to be looking at. They're doing all that. It's like every week there's another waiver claim, and some of them are people we've heard of before. Some are not. And again, it's worth giving a shot, and I applaud them for that. But unfortunately, with guys who are being sent to the trash heap at the end of August, your hit rate's gonna be pretty low.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, but the one thing he doesn't really do is walk guys, and he had 5 walks. So he can't walk it. I mean, if he's going to walk 5, you're done. And I think everybody knows that about Quantrill. But he did have a stretch that I pulled a 15-start stretch this year without any 15 starts in a row where he had an ERA of 3.55 and a FIP of 3.66. Like, that's great. It was
that's reasonable.
I'm not saying he's good. He's probably not good, honestly. But it's a guy that if you're trying to eat some innings and save some arms and skip some guys, I mean, they've already been running out 6-frame rotations. They put Strider back. Like, you shouldn't be taxing anybody right now. That should be the goal. Don't tax anybody from now the rest of the season. I get it. We'll leave it there. One more note from Saturday, and then we'll get to a break and move on. The Braves allowed 6 home runs on Saturday. It was only the 13th time. This is per Mark Bowman. In 125 years or so that the Braves have allowed that many home runs in a game. And so basically once every 10 years, they allow 6 home runs. And it's a lot of home runs.
We've seen some pretty big blowouts. I'm a little bit surprised that number's not higher. If I'm just being honest about it.
Home runs are.
Six is a lot, but
that's a lot of home runs. And again, Dylan Lee allowed 3 home runs by himself on Saturday, which is rare for a reliever to allow 3 home runs in an outing is rare because usually they're going to come out of the game if they allow 2. You know what I mean? Like you don't usually see relievers allow 3 home runs. Particularly a good reliever, not a bad one. Like not like Eric Fetty comes in to wear it and gets blown out.
I was about to say Snicker will make a guy wear it, and he's like, oh, I think he'll pitch his way out of this.
Eric Fetty was literally not even DFA, was released after he had to wear it for 4 innings on Friday. So look, they're not afraid to do that.
Like it's the greatest service that Eric Fetty did for the Braves in his short tenure with the Braves. So eat some innings. Frankly, if they had released him before the game, I would have been fine with that because he's not a guy that you probably want to see on the mound.
All right, we'll leave that there. We'll have some Sunday thoughts, some news, and then Eric's prospect musings that are all coming up after a word from our partners.
FT fans, you want to have confidence when you go out in public? Absolutely. We can't all wear a backwards hat like me, but you can get some True Classic fit shirts. It almost looks like, oh, wow, this shirt was tailored for me. Nope, it's every True Classic. This John is soft, it is smooth, and it makes you look a little jacked. I'm just saying.
And Kratz, you are jacked, and you are spot on. True Classic is the spot to go if someone's like, where do I get shirts? True Classic. The colors are fantastic. They've sold over 25 million shirts to more than 5 million customers. Their shirts just win. The feel, the tailored look, the price. We all wear True Classic on FT. Cam Maben literally can't say enough about them too. Next time we have Cam on. Hit up trueclassic.com/foul. Give it a shot. Upgrade your wardrobe and save on True Classic at trueclassic.com/foul. That's trueclassic.com/FOUL.
All right, Eric, briefly on Sunday, it was the one win of the weekend. Bryce Elder gave up an early 2-run homer, and it felt to me and others like, oh, man, they're going to be blown out again. This is going to be bad, a sweep, all those things. And then he settled in very nicely and did not allow another run and the rest of the outing. And the Braves won this game 4-3 without a single extra base hit. 8 singles, 5 walks, all 4 runs scored on 2 swings. It was a pair of 2-run singles, one from Sean Murphy, one from Jurickson Profar. That was basically the whole game. Like if the game had stakes for the Braves, it would have been like a cooler game to watch because it's one of those little things. In the end, it's a game that didn't really matter to the Braves that much in late August, but they won and avoided a sweep. I don't want to get swept by the Mets. We want the Mets to lose. It is what it is.
Yeah, you come into the series. I think the Braves were 7-3 against the Mets this season. You kind of want to look if you're not going to get to the postseason. Taking the teams that you hate the most out. It's what you want to be doing. And again, you lose 2 straight, and then all of a sudden it's about to get very close to getting the season series rather evened up. And instead now you're 8-5 or something like that against them, and the Mets are going to have to look back and go, if we didn't play the Braves as much as we did, we probably would have had a chance of winning the division. That feels pretty good. It's not like it's not as good as actually winning the series or sweeping them, but at the same time that felt nice. The Bryce Elder experience is getting very tiresome for me. Just like it seems like every outing's an adventure, even when he's good. He has his slider is his best pitch and it's average, and it's kind of like, how does he keep getting away with this sort of thing?
He doesn't. He doesn't.
Yeah, well, but again, not lately he is not. But at the same time, like when he was even on his good stretches, you're like, how is this possible? How is this happening? So overall, it was a good showing. Again, Profar was good again. This has been a very good month for him. It's nice to see Sean Murphy come up and do well. Just have a good game here and there. He kind of gets forgotten about. He actually hasn't been.
I wish he got forgotten about, Eric. That's not what happens. People decide that he stinks and he doesn't stink. That's what happens. He does not. Sean Murphy. That's fine. I will save my Murphy rant for another day. To your point about Profar, how great he's been recently. Very quietly, I would say, Jurickson Profar now has a 133 WRC plus for the season. That's like where he was last year. And I'm not sure if that's going to be where he's going to live, but his slash line is 260, 362, and 470. So an 830 something OPS. He's got 10 home runs in 50 games. He's been really good, man. Really, really good. Defensively, not so much, but offensively, he's been really good. He's taking walks like he always does, and it looks great.
mean, taking walks like he did last year anyway. Before that, he wasn't doing it so much, which is why I think a lot of folks were a little bit down on him in terms of like, is this walk rate sustainable? Is this on-base percentage sustainable? Now, at the same time, getting suspended for the first half, I'm only willing to give the guy so much credit.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, like not even just in terms of like a moral thing, right? It's more of a, would he have been this good in the second half if he didn't have to play, if he had played in the first half, right?
He is fresh, and other guys are not right now. That's fair.
Yeah,
point.
yeah, and he's going against a lot of guys who are tired, and he had a nice little few months off there. So, but if you have him under contract for 3 years, and PEDs or not, they're not going to let you void it. They're not going to let you void the deal. So if he's going to be under contract, you'd rather him play well, especially since left field's been kind of a problem. So overall, been he has been really good hitting for power. One of the reasons why the Braves have been able to hang around the last week or so is because what he's doing at the top of the lineup. He's driving a lot of runs and causing a lot of havoc and set the table for guys behind him. So again, been very good. Need to continue that hopefully going into next season. When the Braves are going to be at full strength, hopefully sign a couple players to kind of fill some roster holes, and this team could be really fun if he's playing the whole season. Hopefully not suspended again. That'd be really bad. And then we go from there. At
the very least, I know there are some Braves fans that are just like out on Profar after this. I understand that reaction. Even if you are that person, him playing well is good, because even if you want him traded into Siberia, it's a lot easier to trade him if he is playing like this. He actually has trade value if he's hitting. If he didn't hit, he would have zero trade value. You'd be stuck with him. I'm not saying they're going to trade him, but they could. If he does this the rest of the season or anything close to this, he would probably be able to be traded. Versus if he had been terrible when he came back, it would have been an albatross that you couldn't move. So,
I mean, we saw that happen with Marcelo Zuna, when he had offensive issues, and then he all of a sudden was terrible for 2 years basically, you couldn't move him. He was terrible. Everyone wanted him gone for a lot of different
and they couldn't move because he was bad. I mean, in the end, baseball stuff mattered. Like if you hit, there's a market for you. That's what it comes down to.
Now at the same time, once he started hitting again, it's not like the Braves, took any sort of moral high road with Ozuna, and they just
they did not.
But at the same time, but you are right. If you want to be teams aren't going to be like, what, I'm going to take this guy that's hitting 200 and got suspended for half a year. That's what I want on my team. They're not going to do that. So again,
I get people being mad at him. I get it, but you still want him to hit, even if you just want him to get off the team. That's either way, that's kind of the same thing. Some quick news, and then we'll get to some prospect stuff to end the show. If you missed it, I'll just leave it here. If you missed it earlier in the week, the boys broke down Austin Riley being out for the season. Obviously, brutal news there. But if you missed that conversation, listen to that podcast from Thursday. He had surgery on his core. He'll be back for the spring, by all accounts. He has not been the same guy the last couple of years, even when he's been playing. That's also worth keeping in mind. And the hope would be he bounces back to a pre-2024 level, because that's what you need him to be with the contract he has and all those things. But obviously the bigger news is that he's just not going to be there, and hopefully he gets healthy for next year.
Unfortunately, when he was pulled and it was said it was an abdominal injury again, I kind of had a suspicion. And because we don't see recurrence of abdominal injuries unless they're, maybe, once in a blue moon. But you don't see recurrence of these types of injuries unless it's like a sports hernia type of situation. Now, the Braves need to take a hard look at their return to play procedures. If they're sending a guy who might have had, maybe it wasn't a full-on hernia situation, but if your muscle walls are compromised in some way, you need to make sure that guy's right before you send it. All it is hard, quick twitch, hard torque movements on the baseball field, and you just can't send that guy.
I have many questions about some training staff decisions this season.
Oh well, there's even been weird stuff happening behind the scenes too.
And they have not used the word sports hernia with Riley. I think they used, was it core
muscle surgery? Yeah, okay.
So
literally went to a sports hernia specialist, and they're not going to call. I mean, just call it what it is. And again, maybe it was just something that's hard. This is not an easy thing to pick up on a scan, especially if it's not a full-on hernia situation. But once it happened again, I was like, he's probably going to be out, or or we're going to find out that it's like one of those hernias that guys can play through until the end of the season. Then he's going to need the offseason surgery. We've seen that a few times. Sometimes just kind of depends on the severity. But as soon as like he was out, and then like it was just setback. He's like, oh, he's still sore. Oh, he's still sore. I'm like, it's a hernia. You can't let him go. So.
Yeah, no reason to push it at all, and get the surgery now. Get ready for next year. But that's that. We briefly mentioned it earlier, but Chris Sale threw 4 2/3 innings on Saturday with Gwinnett. They were on the road, but it was with the Stripers. Looked good by all accounts. He'll pitch, it seems like, against Philadelphia. Snit said probably Saturday. Chris Sale, you can't keep him away. I'll tell you that right now. Chris Sale will be on the mound if he wants to be on the mound. So cool. I mean, take it easy, Chris. Just try to hang in there and be cool. But maybe extra rest. I know they give. I'll be surprised if he's throwing every 5th day the rest of the season. Maybe it's every 6th day or 7th day or whatever it's going to be.
I don't think there's Snicker's already talked about wanting to go to a 6-man rotation for the rest of the season if he can. And unfortunately, that's like Sale's gonna be like the top guy that you don't want to put too many miles on going into the season. But again, like I want to see Chris Sale back out there too, but I'm with you. I don't just do whatever you can to make sure that there's not going to be a problem.
The ramping guys up. I mean, it's similar to, I know there's a lot of coverage of Schwallenbach ramping, not like he's not going to pitch this year, but ramping up to long toss and doing stuff. It's getting guys back on a program so that they can go ahead and have a normal offseason is basically the goal with all these guys now that are close. I mean, Sale's going to pitch in games, but Schwelly, there's some they were trying to ramp Lopez up. He had to shut down again, but all that stuff, like I get it. We've all had the debate about whether they should come back or not. With Sale, it was like, if he was just like getting ready to pitch a month from now, you just wouldn't do it. But if he can pitch on, August 30th, like he was never going to not pitch. Like it's what it is.
No, and again, that's the kind of a guy you want to keep happy too. When you're going into next season, and if he wants to play a little bit, then you probably give him a chance. But ultimately, that's where the kind of the conversation ends for me. Is like he seems willing to have his workload managed, and he understands kind of that situation. So as long as that's the case, and he's not like wanting to throw every 5th day or even like throw on short rest or something strange like that, then should be fine. And
the pitching staff is, of course, incredibly decimated. So we'll cover that ad nauseum on this podcast. One more quick note. Aaron Bummer is actually already went on the IL as of this morning. He actually been pitching really well in August. He had a 0.79 ERA in his 11 and something innings in August. Only pitched once in the last week, too. I'm not sure when this has popped up. Maybe it's recent. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But it's a shoulder inflammation. Don't love to hear that. Bummer's been fine this year. Been hurt. Like I have this stat that's funny where courtesy of Fangraphs, he actually leads the Braves in reliever WAR this year. But if you include his 2 starts, quote unquote, that he made, he doesn't anymore. It's only if you do the actual reliever numbers, he is comfortably leading the Braves in reliever WAR this year. It's like he's having a really good season. But his ERA is like 12 in his 2 starts that he made. And both times, I think, didn't he pitch and did he like just stay in way too long in both starts? If I remember that right, didn't leave in too long.
There was certainly some Snitker. I need innings from hell or high water. And again, there's like weird stuff that happens with like some of these games. Like we talk about the number of starters the Braves had. Like they've had multiple games where like they've had starters warm up and then the game gets delayed and then all of a sudden those guys can't go. And now it's like Nathan Hiles starting for you or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely been some weird stuff like that in games where like, okay, we burned our bullpen yesterday for whatever reason. So Aaron, you're just going to,
and now it's Bummer for 2 2/3 innings. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But anyway, hopefully it's not, we don't know anything beyond shoulder inflammation. That's scary because he's signed for next year and they need him and all those things. Hopefully it's like, hey, it's late August. If there's anything wrong with you, go on the IL. More so than actual issue. We don't know yet, so we'll see on that front. This will be a nice transition to prospect talk, Eric, before we get out of here. Braves fans are maddened by the lack of Hayden Harris being called up to replace Aaron Bummer on the roster. Now, part of that is that Hayden Harris is not on the 40-man. Isn't that right? Yes.
He's not on the 40-man.
Not on the 40-man. So that's a key factor. But anyway, he's a interesting lefty reliever prospect. I think if it wasn't Bummer who's left-handed, people would be a little bit less crazy about it. But we've been hearing about people been mad about Hayden Harris not pitching in the majors for 2 months now. Thoughts on that before we go to other prospects? Hayden Harris, not going up.
I would have called him up 2 months ago and I would have called up Lara too, because the guys who have been in the Braves bullpen have not been particularly good, if we're just being blunt about it. Now, at the same time, if you think it's a lost season and you're going to continue to just claim whoever you can get your hands on waivers, the 40-man roster spots they matter a lot more, because you might start having to jettison guys that you don't necessarily want to get rid of. So I get it. You don't want to start a guy's clock until you have to. Hayden is a little bit of an older guy in terms of prospecting, but at the same time, if you can maybe save a little bit of time, you don't get to arbitration quite as quickly with a guy that does make some sense. And ultimately, I just think it comes down to the Braves just don't feel like that this season is worth promoting him right now. Same thing goes with Lara. Now,
yeah,
I understand, because look, you see his ERA at AAA and you're like, why is this guy not in our bullpen?
It's in the zeros, by the way. It's sub 1 for Hayden Harris. In case you're wondering why people are mad about this, that's probably the reason why.
It's not going to be that low in the major leagues. I'm 95% certain of that.
Well, and also when they call up, so today when they released Eric Fetty and they put Bummer in the IL, they recalled Wander Suero and Hunter Stratton, and that's not exciting for any fan. So it's that's part of this too. It's oh, who are they calling up, and why is it not the guy I want them to call up? We're in that part of the season, Eric. So there's Eric weighing on Hayden Harris. We've not seen that. Now, I have to ask about prospects. Important question. I don't even know if this is actually, I'll let you weigh on this. Has Hurston Waldrop graduated?
I don't know how many innings there's a service time consideration. There's a service time consideration, and he was on the injured list, so it kind of gets a little bit tricky at some point, right? And I don't know what innings mean. I don't think he's at 120 innings though. So
no, he's not.
So we'll call him a prospect for right now.
Prospect, perfect.
Yeah, but
he's awesome, huh?
Yeah, the adjustment is real. Look, I've loved the splitter forever. The fastball was the problem, right? Now, talking to Kylie McDaniel and kind of looking at it, he had this fastball geometry problem that was kind of where he released his four-seamer versus where it approached the hitter, and how that performs. That combination just never performs well, and he had to fix that. And there were some attempts to some mechanical adjustments, maybe get a little bit more over the top and get a different type of run and all this other stuff. And then Sean Murphy's just down there at rehab, and it's why don't you just throw your sinker? It would look great with your splitter and with your stuff. And he starts throwing a sinker, and all of a sudden he starts looking like a world beater. He didn't look quite this good in the minor leagues either. He was kind of up and down in the minor leagues before he got called up, and then he comes up here and he's just piping that sinker in there, and then letting the splitter do its work, and he's mowing down guys. So yeah, I again, is he going to be the next big thing and be a frontline starter? Probably not, but he looks a lot more like a guy who can be a middle of the rotation starter now, with swing and miss stuff and a fastball that you're not embarrassed to see on a big league pitcher. So if you have those two things, and then a breaking ball that can kind of keep guys honest, then that is enough. That is enough to be a good player, and he's been pitching really well.
Yeah, he's been awesome. 24 strikeouts, 6 walks in his 4 starts this year. And I have a feeling, just to protect you a little bit, Eric, when you say middle of rotation starter, people are going what is it? That's a really valuable player. Middle of rotation starters cost $20 million. You know what I mean? So just to back you up on that.
That is, no, people can be mad all they want. The reality is in terms of number 1, number 2 starters, how many of those guys actually exist in baseball? I would say around 20 that are consistently that guy. Not they're the number 2 on their team. If you're thinking about, and then and aces, this
is the old ace discussion. Yeah, they're not 30 aces for 30 teams.
Absolutely not. There's never been an ace pitch for the Colorado Rockies since Denny Nagel, and that's debatable at best. So again, it's just they don't come up this often, and I think that people were get a little too excited over short, small samples, and they don't really understand what I'm trying to get at. If you get a guy who's a 3 ERA guy who gives you 6 innings almost every time, will walk a few guys but misses bats, you want that out of your top prospect every single time. Because again, the other option is, back of rotation starter, and you get the Bryce Elders of the world who every third start, forget how to pitch and usually have an ERA close to 5. And that's kind of your back end start guys. Middle rotation guys. If you have all middle of the rotation guys on your rotation, you are in a pretty good place. Would you like better? Absolutely. But, Chris Hale's coming back and let him do that job.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I'm not even going to ask you about play. Like, I'm going to just tee you up and let you go. Anybody you are excited about? It could be guys that are obvious. It could be the draftees from this year. It could be South Scene, whoever it's going to be. Do you have a guy? I know you always have a guy too. I'm sure you have a guy that you love. But if you don't have a guy, do you have guys, plural, that you're excited about in the system right now?
I mean, J.R. Ritchie's been pitching really well, and I think he's going to be in the 2026 rotation. If I'm just being honest about it. The stuff, just looks live coming out of his hand. So if I'm picking my guy, then that's probably it.
That's a hot take, I think. Not like that's not super hot, but it's hot enough.
I mean, look, dude, it passes the eye test. If you're good enough, you're good enough. I mean, Spencer Schwallenbach literally just basically took his jacket off at Gwinnett, and they called him up last year. JR's been pitching really well at Gwinnett, and he's let's look good post injury. Maybe they want him to see how much manage his innings a little bit this year and all this other stuff where you call him up. But I mean, 2026, it's fair game. He's gonna have a real shot. Especially considering some of the other options that the Braves have. Like Reynaldo might not want to go to the bullpen, but the Braves might have to put him in the bullpen to deal with that shoulder.
He does not. He does not want to.
He does not.
That's been out there. Yeah,
he absolutely does not. Right. But in terms of guys, look, the early draft class is very interesting to me. I'm not super high on South Osteen yet. 5'11" shortstops that don't hit for power is kind of a little bit of a bizarre metric for me, especially since ones that aren't notably good defensively, just kind of a hit tool guy. But at the same time, he's really fast and he's toolsy. Again, a little bit concerning in his first 11 at-bats in the minor leagues. He struck out 10 times. Probably shouldn't do that. But he had a triple tonight. So, again, these are good things. Alex Lodice, I like him. I don't love him. But the reason why they make those two picks is because they want to try to sign Briggs McKenzie, that's lefty from high school, away from a LSU commitment, which is not an easy thing to do. And he was very highly regarded. This was not the bet that I thought they would have made with a big overslot play like this, though. Briggs McKenzie was not on my radar in that way. At the same time, the stuff's real. We haven't seen him in pro ball yet, so I want to reserve judgment. I want to kind of see what his fastball looks like because again, he's not a burner, right? I want to see kind of how things look, and when you're not throwing 98, then how your pitches play off each other really matters. And we haven't seen it so against professional hitters. So I'm very curious about him. Diego Tornes, the top international guy from this last year, is another guy I really want to kind of get some more information about, some more looks at. He doesn't have a home run this year, which is strange because everyone thought he was going to grow into this power. He's 6'2" and 170, but at the same time he's hitting 270, a 400 OBP, stolen 10 bases. By all accounts, the approach and the hit tool is really good. And if you can figure out those two things and then put 20 pounds of muscle on that guy, then he's a switch hitter that is just going to hit bombs and cause a lot of havoc. So he could be a lot of fun. Those are kind of the guys that I'm looking for right now. Other than that, it's more curiosities. This system is a little bit frustrating in terms of you have a guy ooh, this is an interesting hit tool, and then all of a sudden he hits 150 for a month and a half, and you just never hear from him again. So, but there's certainly some guys that are exciting to kind of at least keep an eye on, especially from the draft class, because it was kind of a fascinating strategy based on who they went for. I mean, again, I hope South Osteen works out. I'm just a little bit skeptical starting out.
Yeah. There was a split on that, of course, and I always say I don't know anything about these guys till they start showing something on the minor leagues, and even then, I'm still no less than you do.
They're gonna they'd be traded in 3 weeks if it was up to you.
I'm generally a pro trading prospects, other than the special ones. We were in unison that when Ronnie was coming up, you don't trade Ronnie. That was the one back. That was my go-to example of a guy we were nope.
If when he was at Rome, you would have traded him. I know you would have.
Maybe.
And teams really tried.
Maybe in Rome.
Every game at Rome, there was just 5 pro scouts that were just leaning forward, watching everything Ronnie did. And the Braves were smart enough to trade him, which was good.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody in the system right now that I would not trade. That would be what I would say. But
that seems fair.
I'm a trade prospect guy. Oh, one more question. He's kind of faded from the discussion now, but it's still a very interesting prospect, and we tried to wave that flag when he was going down to the minors. Didier Fuentes is 20 years old, and it had this weird, we don't have to relitigate what happened. He went to the majors and was not ready, obviously. It is what it is. Still has a fantastic arm, has real stuff. He's 20. He's, I think, looked by all accounts that I've heard and seen pretty good in Gwinnett as a 20-year-old. Are you a fan? I actually don't know how you feel about Didier Fuentes as a prospect.
I like him. It's kind of a weird arm slot to fastball type situation where it's like kind of weirdly deceptive. If he lives in the zone too much, it can get problematic. It was really like I understand why it happened. Because at the end of the day, people want social media laughs and stuff like that. But like that Didier Fuentes became a meme when it was through no fault of his own, and major beat writers were just trashing him for no reason. This kid is like 20 years old, got blasted through the minor leagues, was clearly not ready, and like it was weeks after he got sent back down, and they're still making fun of this kid. At the end of the day, I like him. The secondaries I have some questions about, but in terms of like how that fastball plays off his other stuff, it's very unique in what kind of deception it provides and what kind of tunnel it forces hitters to kind of pick up on. But ultimately, I do still like him. I want to see kind of how spring plays out in terms of how this experience with basically getting beat up the entire time he was in the major leagues and then getting made fun of by like the beat writers because I don't know, it was just seemed like an easy, cheap thing to do. If he comes back and he's like he's a bulldog in spring training and he's lights out, then I think he could be very good. But at the same time, he's so young. I would not have dreamed that he was in the major leagues to start the season.
It seemed insane that he was by everybody's count. So I get it. He's another one of the 17 that have started games, and that number will probably grow again. I mean, I think we were talking about it midseason. Maybe it was with Gorov, like trying to figure out who the guy was going to be that might start. Like maybe Blake Burkhalter or something like that, who's a little bit older, more of a polished guy. And then suddenly it was Didier, who's 20, and it was like, oh, okay, he's the guy they've decided to fast track and have on the major. So maybe it's going to be J.R. Ritchie next year. You've already called a shot on that one. And look, you need to bring it full circle. You need 10 starters. If he's one of your top 8 or 10 guys, that means he's probably going to pitch next year. Because if you're already in AAA, you're kind of by definition, you're one call away from being up.
And at this point, it's not going to be a little bit of time at AAA, right? I think it's like significant playing time there. It's again, this is the Braves team that if they think that they're competitive, they're good. If you're at AA or AAA, you're a phone call away.
We have seen them. Yeah, we have seen them pull up. I mean, countless. I mean, you mentioned already Schwellenbach. You remember how fast Harris came at the end. They were willing to jump you a level even if they want to. If they think you're ready to do that. Not everybody is, but some guys are, and it works. So
it's a hard thing to pull off right, especially with the guys so young. And again, I hope in Didier's case, it works out where he learned from that experience, took something from it, and comes back out and shoves. Because again, I root for all my minor league guys. Baseball is really hard. It's just such a the difference between a successful major leaguer and a guy who gets bounced. In AA is usually like a mile or 2 miles per hour and a couple inches of command, and that's not much to much wiggle room to have. So I hope he does well, and ultimately, it was kind of a tough thing to watch to be sure, but hopefully it works out because I do think that the arm talent's there.
There you go. Well, Eric, I told you at the beginning. I want you to plug everything that you're still doing because I know you're not. You keep claiming you're washed up.
I'm a washed up writer now. Every 6 months or so, I send Brad an email, wanting to know if I can be on the podcast again. Just to kind of, I just need to make sure that email address it doesn't go inactive. But no honestly. I'm still at Fanside. I'm loving it. I work with a lot of really smart, fun people. A lot of vintage talking shop battery power vibes of, in the Slack room, a lot of laughs and smart people wanting to drill down and find like the right topics to talk about. That's something that I'm very familiar with and I can get behind a bunch. And I have a lot of fun working with those guys, even though I do miss, I miss my prospect guys at Battery Power. I've missed you. It's nice talking to you every 3 or 4 years. But if you're wanting to know the stuff that I write, if you're looking for Brave stuff, housethathankbuilt.com is where that goes. And I'm still writing a good bit about the Braves over there. If for whatever reason you're into Astros content or Orioles content, I'm at Birds Watcher and Climbing Tall's Hill, writing about those teams as well. And jumping on here and there, being a full-time MLB writer, we kind of what needs to be done gets done. So if I need to write Red Sox stuff or Dodgers stuff or whatever, I jump in and do that too. And I'm also doing the podcasting thing on the regular again now on the Baseball Insider feed. Every week, myself and Adam Weinrib do a prospect show, MLB wide, where we talk about prospects and talk about the risers and fallers and all the news that's going on in the minor leagues. Kind of usually taking a unique angle each show. A lot of fun. Still talking about prospect stuff. I try to sneak as many Braves in as I can, but he's a Yankees fan, so that kind of gets a little bit tricky for me sometimes.
And you just said you were washed up, and now you're doing a weekly podcast about prospects. What are we talking about, Eric? Come on. You're podcasting, you're writing.
I am simply describing how I am treated by Brad because he doesn't want me on the show anymore.
It's not true.
He misspelled my name when he texted me earlier.
That's not true either.
Hey, Eric with a K. And
that's not true. People are gonna think that I'm slandering you on the show. Anyway, well, hopefully, if people don't know our dynamic, Eric, this is what we do. Eric and I go back and forth, and we have fun doing podcasts. Scott's, I don't even know where Scott is. Scott, I think was on the East Coast this weekend. I can't remember what he was doing. He was traveling. I was traveling.
He's a traveling guy.
We'll have to do a 3-man episode with Scott. It's like old times.
Get Steven, get Sean too. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sean doesn't remember my name. I'm just going to throw it out. That's not
true. Sean.
Now, Steven does. I watched the show after. No, to be fair, I don't miss an episode of this because it cracks me up every time.
Well, thank you.
But by the way, everyone should not miss an episode. And if you haven't, go back and rewatch old episodes. They're hysterical and very insightful. Even if you don't care about what happened that week, you will find things that will make you smarter and better baseball fans in the future. Now, that said, I watched the episode after, and Steven said some nice things about me. You said some mean things, probably.
Did I? I don't think I did.
No. It was cool. It was cool seeing Steven again. I miss all those guys. I really do. We worked together for a long time. I kind of, when you look back and think about it, like for very little other than just our own enjoyment too. So like,
yes.
And we did it for a long time, and I'm proud of you and Steven and Sean and Scott for building this thing, being on with Hammer Territory. With the Foul Territory guys, I love kind of what they do too. It seems like a really fun thing that you're building here, and I couldn't be more proud to know you.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you doing this. As always, follow Eric. He's not on Twitter anymore, but you can follow all his working fan site. You'll find him. It's fine. Podcasts. You're better off without Twitter. I should quit too. It's fine. I should just stop with Twitter.
It is a miserable existence. Every once in a while, I'll do a Q&A over on Blue Sky. Because I can still log into that versus my Twitter account, which there's just literally not going to happen, I guess. Every 2 months I try, and they get the same. I go through the same customer service emails, and I still can't get it back. So I guess they say I have access to it, which is interesting because I haven't posted in 3 years. So, it's kind of what's going on with that.
It happens. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate this. As for everybody else, please subscribe to Hammer Territory. Eric just gave a great organic plug, which I didn't even ask him to do. Thank you for saying all that, Eric. Please subscribe to this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, etc. Follow us on everywhere, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, of course. We're still there at Hammer Territory as well. Tell your friends, and we'll see everybody next time.
Bye.